Welcome to Fatherhood for the Rest of Us with Brandon Handley. Because you're already great at everything else, why not fatherhood too?
What is going on, Fatherhood for the rest of us? This is Brandon Hanley. I am, as always, your host for Fatherhood for the rest of us, the creator, founder, etc. Today, also the voice of a generation. How could I forget? Today, we are on with Dave Gieselman, who is a men's coach. Dude's just, look, if I could say it any other way, he's like a brother from another mother, right? That type of situation. He and I have an epic conversation. I thought about whittling it down. I thought about cutting it up. I thought about putting it out in multiple different ways. And then I thought my audience, you, are brilliant enough to be able to press pause if you'd like, skip around if you'd like, find the nuggets that are going to find you, because that's kind of how this all works out anyways. You're going to find the information you're looking for if you're looking for it. I can't say it any other way. Sorry about the sniffles. I got potentially some allergies. Rocking my world today. Anyways, Dave's just awesome. Got a lot of information on this one. Hope you enjoyed as much as he and I enjoyed having our conversation. Reach out to him, let him know what kind of effect he had on you through this conversation, questions or otherwise. A huge forewarning here, everybody. This does have swearing. This does have a fair amount of it, both sides. Didn't really try and edit that out, and just try and capture things as real as they are. And that's the other beautiful thing, kind of about Dave. You know, he's quite honestly just speaks the truth as he sees it, and that's kind of refreshing. And you'll be able to catch him if you haven't caught him. He's also the originator, as far as I'm aware of Live on the Drive, just kind of driving around having a conversation and speaking his mind. Excuse me, guys, for sniffles. But get on out there, check him out. Make sure you get over to his website and give him some thumbs up. Catch him on the Live on the Drive, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll also be able to watch this video if you'd like. You should be able to find it on YouTube, and it'll be in the link in the show notes. I'll be linking his website and contact info as well in the show notes. That's going to do it, guys. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you sign up for that weekly mailer for Fatherhood for the rest of us. We send out great weekly tips. This week's tip's going to come out, and it's going to be from Cardiff Hall. I just want to share again kind of what it is that he's doing. And he's doing some really cool stuff with teaching children how to be entrepreneurs, and having the children learn some of these life skills is pretty huge. So that's going to be a big one. And then I'm going to add a couple other, a la Tim Ferriss, a couple other bullet points. Maybe this week I'll share probably the YouTube that hit me the most, and just a couple of little things. So keep your eyes open for that. If you're a member, that's on its way, and if you haven't signed up, go ahead and do that at fatherhoodfortherestofus.com. Also, join our Facebook group. I don't know why you haven't done so already. If you're out there, hop on in. We got a bunch of like-minded fathers who are looking to help each other out, raise the bar, help each other out with challenges if they're facing them, help each other celebrate celebrations. I mean, look, it's always the more the merrier, right? So hop in over there. That's going to be at Fatherhood for the Rest of Us on Facebook, and you can always reach out to me. Best place probably is going to be either Brandon at fatherhoodfortherestofus.com or on Facebook. And look, I'm on Instagram, Twitter. You can find me pretty much anywhere. So anyways, guys, I know you're going to love this one. I know it's a long one, but it is worth it. We'll talk later.
All right, brother. Let me just recording. We're going, and I'm also just gonna have you kind of tee up what it is that you do. You want to be called a coach, or what's your shit? What do you want to
I'm
be?
a coach. I'm a coach. I'm a men's life coach. That's what I do. I do speaking. I do uh, I do all kinds of stuff. I work with men. I'm a life coach. My wheelhouse, right? My whole deal is guys whose wheels are spinning. They can't gain traction in what they want to do, and it really doesn't matter if they're starting. I'm a millionaire, and I'm trying to make something happen in my life, and I can't seem to get any traction, or uh, I'm a homeless guy, and I don't know how to like live like a life. I get guys who like don't know how to be married dudes. I get guys who uh uh married fathers, uh whose wife suddenly leaves them or dies or whatever, and guys who are like, the book I'm writing, published in you heard it here first, published in late 2018.
Late 2018.
In late 2018, the book is called Shit. Now what do I do?
Right.
Right, and it's for that moment, and I'm the guy for that moment.
Well, listen, I'm gonna break it right there for a second, because on your blog site, right? It's called becomelimitless.com.
Right.
But you've got a button, right? If you go in there and you go, it says it's the About Me, or somewhere in there and this is one of the things I love about you is just you're doing it your way. You're not like pandering to a crowd. You're not like, hey, here's how everybody else is doing it, I'm gonna follow suit. And maybe you are. I don't know whose suit you would be following if you are. But what I just enjoy, like your raw, true, and I steer away from the word authentic just because everybody's using it, right? You're genuine, you're yourself. There's nobody else out there doing Dave, right? And on your site, you have a button that says, oh shit, now what do I do? And it's so refreshing. It really is, man. It's so refreshing to, you see you talking honestly, and doing all that. But one of the questions I've actually got for you is, let's just talk about becoming limitless. Where does that title even come from? How'd you stumble on it? What do you mean by it?
You know what? Becoming limitless is about recognizing that the only limits that I have placed on myself. And I have done it my entire life. You're familiar with a little bit of my story. Look, I grew up in Pasadena, California, and by 17 years old, I was a daily drinking, practicing alcoholic. I could not alter myself often enough. I could not, and it was all the things that I would look at other people, and I would compare my insides to their outsides. I could not ever manage to feel the way other people looked. And that was my problem. And it was this huge, this like endless story of my own limitations. I'll never be able to do this. I'm too short. I'll never be able to do that. I'm too fat. I'll never be able to do that. I was this like very short, almost perfectly spherical, very frightened human being most of my life.
Sure.
With nothing but the stories of why I can't and why I couldn't and why it won't work for me coming out of my mouth.
Now, Dave, one of the things I also know about you outside of like, these limiting factors is that we had a conversation a couple weeks back, maybe it's just a week back, who knows, I can't tell time, but you talked about having a great dad, and you talked about kind of coming up in like this pretty good environment. And frankly, you're freaking me out, because I'm trying to do the same for my children, right? Put them in the best environment. And it sounds like even though you had everything kind of in as good as it could have gotten, you still had these limitations. You still had this doubt. You still had something that kind of got in your way. Can we talk about that first? I mean, how, why?
You know what? I'm gonna put it because I know your thing is fatherhood, and I'm gonna put it in that context,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's really important. Because I have a 13-year-old son.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Who's doing awesome.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
We could devote a whole podcast to how awesome my son's
Sure.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the deal. I was born with a genetic predisposition toward alcoholism. Alcoholism is genetic.
Okay.
Okay. It's not causal. Okay. You didn't yell at your kids one too many times and they became alcoholic, right? You didn't not give them enough this, that, or the other thing and they became alcoholic. Either they have a genetic predisposition toward it, or they don't. I heard it's about 10% of the population. I could not cite where I heard that, and I can't vouch for its perfect accuracy, but I heard it's about 10% of the population.
I think this show's fact finder free, so you're all right.
Outstanding. But that's the deal. I was born with a genetic predisposition, and at some point, like that genetic disposition went live on me. And what happened? And I look back and I noticed at a very, very young age that I did not seek coping mechanisms. I sought numbing mechanisms. Like I used food, I used sugar, I used video games, I used all these things as numbing mechanisms in my life. And the numbing mechanisms just supported my limiting beliefs.
No, I
Right?
mean, so what would you have been numbing yourself from?
The fact that I didn't feel like everybody else, and I don't know what caused that. Like
Okay.
I have two brothers and a sister. My parents are still together. My father is the best man I've ever met in my entire life, bar none. Sorry guys, contest over. My father's the number one best man I've ever met,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't know, you
Okay.
know. And
Yeah.
the deal is, and I want to put this in terms of in fatherhood context. My son, I do everything I can for my son because I know for one thing's for 100% certain he was born with a genetic predisposition toward alcoholism. Like, and he came by it fairly.
Right.
So what I don't do is spend a bunch of time isolating him from alcohol, telling him the drinking's bad, telling him the smoking weed is bad. Like that never would have stopped me.
Right.
What I do is I spend my time giving him options, giving him ways to cope, giving him ways to express himself, and ways to not feel frightened, and ways to, my son's been training jujitsu since he was 4 years
I
old.
was gonna say, isn't that? I mean,
His
so
ex-
those are some of your coping mechanisms that you're talking about here. He's
Right.
got that. He's got like I mean, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about jujitsu and what it's doing for him as it lines up in fatherhood.
As it lines up in fatherhood, and as it lines up with this particular subject that we're talking about, the what the jujitsu does is it enables him to release anger, release stress. It's great exercise, but it also puts him in physical, intimate contact with other people, and he has to learn how to navigate that world. You know, I didn't grow up with a lot of like physical, intimate contact. I didn't. My father was affectionate, but like I wasn't wrestling. Like I wasn't, like kids in the, I was a city kid, and
Mhm.
kids in the country wrestling, man. I had cousins and they were wrestling. They were always jumping on each other. And I see your kids, your kids are always jumping on each other. And that
Yeah.
just wasn't my experience.
Sure.
And certainly when I got older, my brothers and sisters and I kind of got into it. But as I got older, there was that weird thing that came from a few generations that said the men don't touch other men.
Mhm. Yeah.
Guys don't touch.
Right.
God, don't hug your buddies. You don't
Yeah.
hold hands. You don't whatever. Because God
Right.
forbid somebody's gonna think something about you. And God forbid somebody thought I was gay, because as if
California.
there's anything wrong with being gay, right? As if there's anything wrong with being
Right.
gay.
Right.
So what happened? What the jujitsu does is it gives you confidence. It allows you to take failures, because you're gonna get beaten. You're gonna,
Mm-hmm.
and it allows you to take these failures in stride and kind of get back to it, and it allows you to surrender your ego in a way that all of a sudden it's not about you. Like the world isn't happening to me or for me. The world happens, and I'm just a participant. And it allows me to separate a moment from who I am. It allows me to separate a failure from who I am. It allows me to separate a victory from who I am.
Right.
I've had some great victories, but I've also had some heartbreaking failures.
Which one of you do you want to talk about, the victories or the failures?
I want to talk about the failures, right?
You want to talk about the failures?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me a couple of failures.
You know what? I've been in tournaments where I could have beaten this dude and he pulled some shitty move and broke my ribs and I tapped,
Yeah.
that was it. Or I was training, I had a series of tournaments that I was going to do, each one more prestigious than the rest, and I'd been training real hard, and then I had some kid that I was sparring with break 3 of my toes and end my year.
Right.
Like 8 months were the next 8 months were shot.
Right.
Right. I was in a boot for 10 weeks.
Wow.
And just a bunch of stuff happened as a result, and having to rehab my foot and whatever. I mean, it was bad. And I impressed an urgent care doctor. He's like, "Whoa, that's a gruesome injury,"
Ooh.
and
Right.
and whatever, it happens. And,
Sure.
and it wasn't a big deal. It's just broken toes.
Right. But when you talk about training, right? Right now I'm probably just a month or two into training for this triathlon, and you don't want to skip time or days, because the end rate, I feel like I could go do it right now, right? I could go do it. It's a good chance I injure myself though, and put myself out for all this time. So all that training's for not necessarily to just do it, but it's to do it well without hurting yourself and all this other stuff. And then if any of that gets interrupted and you've got all this time invested in it, that's heartbreaking, just like you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I can see where you're coming from there.
Yeah. And I didn't get to do the stuff, and then I was off. Then I had to figure out how to be okay with the thing that made me okay. Right. I couldn't do jujitsu for a long time.
Yeah. Right.
And I had to figure out how to be okay with not being okay. And it's funny because what I learned was that I could be okay not being okay. I learned that I could be okay being uncomfortable.
Sure.
And there is nothing more important to me that I pass to my son, is that there's and I know your children are in jiu-jitsu. I don't know if, you've kind of looked at it a little bit for yourself. And one of the things they're going to learn is there's a huge difference between this sucks and this is a submission.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I can live in sucks all day long.
Right.
Right. And I can do it. I can do it on the mat. I can do it in my life. I can do it. I've had some very, very hard times financially. I've had some very difficult times with my wife where we just had to work some stuff out, man.
Sure.
We just had to gut it out and get through it,
Right.
like we're in this, and we got to gut this out. There's, my wife had, some health problems when my son was 1, and we just had to gut it out, and so I've had some really, really sort of, difficult failures to try to work through. I had a couple failed businesses. I opened in 2006, I opened a catering company. In 2009 came along and did to my business what 2009 did to everybody's business.
Right.
And I just head in my hands, shit, now what do I do?
Right. So but you don't, so you didn't, you didn't sit there and wallow in these painful heartbreaks for the rest of your life. It's, you pick up and keep going again. Let's talk about some of your victories, man.
So, you know what? So, some of the victories is in, July 25th, 1999, I was the last day I took a drink, was the last day I took a drug, was the last day I took anything. And I didn't wake up that morning and that being the plan. I got tricked. Okay. I got tricked. Somebody said, "Oh, by the way, in there's a bunch of free donuts and shit." And I'm like, "What's that?" And they say AA meeting. And I'm like, "All right." And so I'm like, free donuts, I'm in,
Sure. Yeah.
And so that kind of began my journey there. And what happened was I just had a series of small victories. Like I was able to not drink for a few days, and it was huge. Like, I didn't think that was even possible for me.
Can we talk about that too? So hold on a second. Let me just kind of see where we are, right? We'll cover our addictions a little bit more too, just because I'm right now just a few months sober of just drinks, right? And for me, it was kind of a wake up and I just decided it wasn't serving me anymore. Right. I'm like, this is playing absolutely no good in my life and what it's doing for me. But what are some of the things that you realize as the time goes on, the grips or your mindset of the alcohol as time goes on? I'm just going to lay just for me, for example, one of the things is I just realized that, like, I'm literally imprisoning myself at it. I'm like, well, I'm going to go home and drink, but then I can't go anywhere. I can't drive. I can't do this. And there's a good chance I'm going to let my kids down in this area over here if, I start drinking or doing something. So I just got done reading Fatherhood is Leadership with Devin Banison. My audio needed to match my video, and that's kind of how I ended up with saying, "Hey, it's not working for me anymore." And so I'm just curious, kind of where your head you find freedom is how I found it. You know what I mean? So I mean, speak to that a little bit, like overcoming that addiction, how your head and body feels.
My head, I mean, I got sober and I came back to life.
Yeah.
I came back to life, and getting into what alcoholism is and how it affected me. I mean, I was powerless. There was no way that I could make a decision. You made a decision to stop doing what you were doing. You had a compelling reason. It was time. You could and you did. That was not my experience.
Right.
It literally took an act of God. I have zero. I claim zero credit for my sobriety today, other than God grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, set me in front of the people that I needed to be around, and all I did was not fight them.
Nice.
Right. That was the one thing that I did. It has nothing to do with my willpower. It has nothing to do with my like tenacity or persistence or anything else.
Right.
People are like, hey, bud, if you want to hang out here, you can. We'll treat you nice. And by the way, you don't have to be hurting the way you're hurting anymore if you don't want to.
That's awesome.
And I was like, what? Like, I don't have to feel like this forever. Like, this isn't. I don't have to be in this pit forever. And they're like, no, as a matter of fact, we're going to jump in with you because we know the way out.
That's awesome.
And so they showed me the way out. And they said, by the way, the only way you get to keep this is if you jump in the hole with somebody else. Like if you take the next hurting bugger that you see and you reach out to him and you show him love and human dignity and compassion, and you show him exactly what we showed you, if you are not willing to do that, you don't get to keep this.
Okay.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
If you don't pay this forward, you don't get to keep it.
Yeah. And
I was told that very, very early in my sobriety. And I began working with other alcoholics very early in my sobriety. That now 18 years later has translated into a career as a men's coach, because working with other men was so transformative for me.
Right.
It was so, I crawled out from behind a goddamn dumpster, brother. That is my story.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's
I
awesome.
crawled out from a fucking dumpster, and they said, if you help people, your life will grow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I had no reason to believe that was true, but I also had no reason to disbelieve it.
Well, I mean, you had nowhere else to go. What
I got nowhere else to go. So go help people and my life gets better. Okay, let's go do that. And I began helping people and my life got better. That's awesome. I kept helping people and my life kept getting better. And every step along the way, I found that there was absolutely nothing. I mean, when I got sober, when I first got sober, they're like, what would you like your life to look like? And I'm like, I'd like to live somewhere and have a shitty little job and maybe not, shit blood. Like that was like that was like my big, like it would be awesome to take just like a regular shit.
Right.
That was my huge, like that was
look, man, you got to start somewhere.
Right.
Small victories, like you said.
And and in just a few weeks, like that, okay, now I was living somewhere. Now I was like having a life. And every time I kind of tried to imagine, like, what was the biggest thing I could imagine? Like in 90 days, I was there. Right. And I'm like, wow, that was as big as I could dream, huh? Well, then what's the next? And that's where the become limitless comes
Sure.
from.
Okay.
Like these men through kindness, love, and dignity, like just by here's some kindness, love, and dignity, showed me that there was absolutely nothing in this world that I can't have. Through that process, through the last 18 years, I've gotten married. I've gone back to school on my own dime. I've started a couple businesses. I've cooked in some of the best places in California. I've worked with some huge names. I've done some really big important stuff for some really big important people, and found out that none of that meant shit. Right?
Right. Right.
You know, my son was born, and being the best dad that I could be suddenly became the only thing that meant anything to me.
Right.
And I walked out of a Michelin starred kitchen in Beverly Hills,
Wow.
for a schedule and for a lifestyle that would enable me to be a real father to my son. Because what I realized is nobody writes what a great cook you are on your tombstone.
Right.
Nobody lies for you on your tombstone.
Right.
Okay? They write loving husband, good father, but only if you fucking were.
Right.
Right? And nobody writes what a great cook you were.
No.
Nobody cares.
No.
It doesn't fucking matter. What are you going to leave behind? What's the legacy that you get to leave? And is it one of love? Is it one of a dynamic man who served others? Or was it a guy who went to his cubicle every day and made the money for his family and came home and lived this mediocre life and didn't do anything, but at the end of the day, yeah, I suppose they didn't starve to death. There was always food on the table, and there was always a mediocre, shitty ass life available to him.
Well, I mean, let's so first of all, I mean, if that's your choice, it sucks to be you, right? I mean,
Drink,
if that's
motherfucker.
that's it. Sorry about your choices. Okay, but at the same time, it's okay, right? I don't think that it's this door. I think that you and I have walked through isn't always open for everybody, right? It's kind of like there's the door's there. You've got to say, you know, I'm going to open this door and see where it goes. And some people are afraid,
Right.
and they never open the door.
Right.
All right. I mean, so one of the questions I want to ask, so too, I mean, we could say, hey, how did you realize? I mean, is it this culmination of 18 years? Because you just started your become limitless, in like November, right? You decided, all right, bam,
Right.
I'm going into it. I'm doing it. I'm all in. My heart, body, and soul is here. And you've worked steadily for the past 7 months. I think just last month you said, was it June 15th or July 15th?
June 15th.
June 15th, you said, all right, I'm all in. This is all I'm doing.
Right.
Where, you know, could you talk a little bit about how you realized that you could, you would, and you did?
It was back in November when I decided, and it was a culmination of a lot of things that I said that being a life coach is where I wanted to be. And it came from realizing that really what I was passionate about was working with other guys and helping guys rebuild their lives or reinvent themselves or get out of the shitty little rut that they were in, or get out of this mediocre mindset that they were in.
All right.
And it was back in November. I'm like, how come that's not what I do for a living? Because that's really where my heart is. You know, yeah, I love to cook. I love being in professional kitchens. And don't get me wrong, I never fell out of love with cooking. I loved this more. And you know, at the end of a Tough Mudder, I dragged my buddies Chuck Dickinson and Matt Schultz through a Tough Mudder, and you know, we kind of came through this experience, and you know, one of them was kind of ambivalent about it. The other one wasn't really sure that they could pull it off, but they were willing to jump in with me on it. And I ended up being the weak link in that team, you know, and like, and I just wanted to do it. Like, I don't care. I was signed up for it. I was going to do it alone.
Right.
just because I like to push myself and just see what I'm capable of. And so I got these guys with me. And on the drive home, there was just this, it was just this moment. And I'm like, this is what I need to be doing for a living. Because I was faced with a very real situation. The next day, I was going to have to take a deep breath and pack all this away and go to work.
Yeah.
To do the job that I'm really not like in love with. Right. And
Yeah,
so, and so at that point, I'm like, this is what I want to do. Okay. So I literally Googled how to become a life coach. Right. And
Yeah.
so all this crazy shit comes up and, you know, and the one piece of advice that I saw was get a coach.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to get a coach. So I found a guy, Travis Barton. And I talked to him and we started talking and I said, okay, so I want to do this. How do I go about it? And everything else. And I said, I don't want to do another holiday season in the kitchen.
Yeah.
He goes, and I go, is it feasible that I could be self-employed before the end of the year? And he's like, brother, it is feasible that you could be self-employed before the end of the summer.
Nice.
And I didn't know what it took. I didn't know. But once again, just like 18 years ago when somebody said, by the way, you never have to feel the way you're feeling ever again.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden a world opened to me.
Sure.
This guy goes, no, you could be doing this by the end of the summer. And suddenly a world opened to me of possibility, of hope, and now I'm excited. Really? Really?
Yeah.
And the guys that I work with, and it's the same thing when I go, by the way, this is available to you. And they go, really?
Right.
It's the best moment as a coach. It's the best moment as a sponsor. It's the best moment as a father.
Yeah.
You know, when you teach your son something, you teach your daughter something, and you open and you see a world of possibilities suddenly open to them when they realize they can do something. You show them a submission, or you show them an escape from a submission, even better. Right. They're like, oh, by the way, next time you're in that, here's a sneaky little way to get out of that most guys don't know. They think they got you locked, right. You know, and here's a little sneaky way out. And it's that, really? Well, try it. It happened to me the first time somebody showed me how to make like whipped cream, because I thought whipped cream came in a can, a little red can, right? Yeah. And they handed me a little jar full of cream and said, shake it. And after a little minute, it stopped shaking. And I'm like, and I opened it up and it was full of whipped cream. And I'm like, you can make whipped cream?
That's awesome.
Well, if you can make whipped cream, what else can you make?
Where does this end?
Where, you know, and the answer is everything. And I learned to make, and I was probably the only kid in the world ditching high school to go home with his buddies and make like lobster manicotti from scratch, right. Like making my own cheese, making my own pasta, making my own sauces from scratch. You know, the funnest game when I was in high school was, let's get Dave stoned and wait till he gets the munchies, because some crazy shit's about to kick off.
You're about to eat real well.
Right, because he's going to do something crazy. And it's that moment when like possibilities pop up and realizing that we are limitless. Yeah. What do you want? What how big can you dream?
Yeah.
Right? And then realizing that not only are we limitless, but I can take the biggest dream that I can think of and I can reverse engineer it.
Right on.
You know, I'm going to give something away right now, and I'm going to give it away. And this is one of my best coaching tools, and I'm putting it on your show. I'm giving this shit away. And it's not unique. It's not mine. I didn't think of it, okay? But you come up with the biggest dream, like a 3-year plan. What do you want in 3 years? How big can you make it, right? And so just make a list. You know, how much money do you want to make? Where do you want to be working? Where do you want to be living? What do you want to be driving? What do you want your life to look like, right? And so in 3 years, now what needs to be in place? Then make another list. What needs to be in place in 2 years in order to make that thing happen? And what has to be real? What has to be in the ground, in place, structure built in 2 years in order for that 3-year plan to actually become reality? Then what needs to happen in 1 year? What needs to be in place in 1 year for that 2-year plan to be a reality, so that 3-year plan can be a reality? In 9 months, 6 months, 3 months, 30 days. What needs to be in place in 7 days so that 30-day plan is ready to go to make that 60-day plan a reality, so the 90-day plan can be real, so the 6-month plan can actually happen, enabling the 9-month plan to become a reality, 1 year, 2 years. You just reverse engineered your dream life in 3 years.
Nice. That's powerful.
Do it.
Do it.
Fucking do it. Make the
show's
plan,
over.
right?
No.
Make the plan, then call Brandon or call me.
Well,
Make
dude,
the plan.
let's so let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about they go to Dave's site, they go to Become Limitless, and do you have any filtering mechanism to say, hey, these are some of the criteria, fill this form out, reach out to me, you just and let's see if we can work together, right? And then let's say they make it through the Davo filter, and you've got what's the first session look like? A little bit like a little teaser outside of what you just gave there. Like, I mean, is there something else that kind of says, hey, it might even like that first talk is free, right? Usually your first talk.
The filter, this is important. The filter is a conversation.
Okay.
And we're going to find out in that free conversation, we're going to talk on the phone. You're going to schedule a consultation and we're going to talk. And I'm going to ask you what you want out of this. What's your intent? What would you like? What would you like to see happen? Like, why do you need a coach? Why do you think you need a coach? Like, and what would you like to see? And in that conversation, we're going to decide if what you want and what I offer are going to mesh.
Right.
And it's either going to be a hell yes or a nah. Because there's no hell maybes. We're not doing lukewarm. I'm in a position where I work with rock stars.
Right.
Like, I can take anybody I want. I can say no to anybody I want.
Right.
I don't need you to make my rent.
Right.
Okay. I don't need a single client to make my rent. So what I get to do is I get to be selective about the people that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And if I choose to take you on, I started this as an experiment a while back, and it has become the way that I do business. Your first month is free.
Right on.
Okay.
That's
We're
nice.
going to work together for a month. 30 days, no asterisk, no bullshit, no trickery, 1 month of free coaching. If we decide that what we want to do here is we want to work together, we're going to work together for a month.
Right on.
I have a job and you have a job. My job is to show up so fucking powerfully that your life changes in a month.
Nice.
Your job is to show up so powerfully in for yourself, that I want to continue working with you.
Right on. And I think I saw earlier today. I mean, look, you can take all the coaching you want, but you got to put the work in. Right.
No, I'm the guy with the flashlight. You're the guy with the shovel.
I love it. And so, I mean, again, this is part of, right. This is part of the refreshment in who you are for me. Right. We became friends a while back, and I started watching your live on the drive. And I went to an event. I mean, I'm playing it on my phone. I'm like, you got to watch this guy. It's fucking great. It's great. And parts of it were like, I mean, you had the one. So let's talk. The one I remember is like, you're talking about the difference between discipline and motivation. Discipline and motivation.
Ugh.
And you had the one line, right? And I just loved it. I was like running around paraphrasing it everywhere I went. I was like, motivation is like, you went out drinking all night long, and last night kicked your ass. You woke up the next day, and you're like, I'm not going to drink like that again. You go, you empty out all your shit. The one that made me laugh the most, like, you throw your weed pipe off the cliff, and you keep on going, right? It's just, the style is it's so true, though. You know what I mean? It's so true that we wake up and we're like, for years, I worked in the restaurant business myself as well as a bartender for about 20 years, right? So
that's my man.
So you wake up from the night before, you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to do that again. And then like you go, like you said, you go like 2 or 3 days and you don't drink. Then your buddies call you up and like you kicked out gluten. You're not eating gluten, all this stuff. Like I said, dude. So this is one of yours. And it's not even like, you're not even trying to be funny or anything, just being real and genuine, but like, I'm laughing and it's serious. It's true, right? All at the same time. And this is God, we need more of it. We need more of this approach where it says, I'm literally going, authentic is like something everybody's like, oh, we need to check off authentic over here. Am I being authentic? You know, it's like, I've got a question mark. I've got to say, hey, I'm walking into this room and I'm being authentic, or you just are.
Right.
And you just are. And so that's the draw. And that's what people need to be seeing from you, because if they want to be real people, which you talk about the everybody in like, I call it like the stockyards, right? You're in the stockyards when you go up to cubicle, dude. I mean, I love my job. Don't get me wrong. I got a great job. I do the work I do and I enjoy it. But I went in the other day and it's still like high school, and I'm 40, dude. I'm going to a cafeteria. I'm walking around with my food. Everybody's got backpacks on. I'm like, shit, dude, nothing's changed in like 20, nothing. I was like, and this is not who whatever. So I'm lucky in the fact that I don't have to go in there all the time and see that and be surrounded by it. Right. But again, so what I love about you is just the true you. And that's what I think, it's awesome. I enjoy that. So let's talk about like you getting to, I mean, what inspired Live on the Drive, which everybody needs to go watch, by the way.
What inspired? Yeah, I tell you what. Like everything else in my life, man. What inspired Live on the Drive was me being terrified. Is what inspired Live on the Drive. I didn't know what me being authentic looked like. You know, I didn't know what me being authentic intentionally looked like, right? And I have I have this guy that I am, but I didn't know how it was going to translate, because I want to be a coach, right? So I need to put my voice out there. Well, what is my voice? What does that sound like? And Live on the Drive literally began. Go back to my first ones and they're dog shit, right? Yeah, they're just awful. But it was literally me looking to find my voice.
Sure.
Looking to find what I sound like.
Sure.
Who I am, and my first few sound like my coach, right? My first few sound like the men I was trying to emulate, rather than who I actually am. Right. And so, and so as it evolves, you go back and you watch all of them, they're all about, 10, 15, 17 minutes long. They're not long, but you go back and you will see like this evolution, and you will see like these spikes where I really find like a tone that I really, really love and felt very natural, but then I found like the next day I couldn't quite find it again. I see like my low energy days, or the days I'm just not inspired. But see, even those days, it's important that I'm on there.
Yeah.
So what inspired it was I was terrified that I was going to sound inauthentic. I was terrified that I didn't know who I was going to be on the other side of the screen.
How'd you break
And
through it?
And I hit the live button. That's how I broke through it.
That's it.
I did a bunch of YouTube videos. You go to my YouTube channel and you'll see there's 9 videos. I did this long interview, but I found that when I set up a camera and hit record, I did 1,000 takes until I couldn't quite get it right. And that was why I decided to go live, because I'm like, it's so bullshit. It's so contrived.
Right.
And I'm like, the only way this is going to work is if I go live.
Right on.
Like, it's the only way it's going to work is if like I can't go back and reword the way I just said that thing.
Yeah, man. No, that's great. I mean, you got to liken it to life, right? How many takes do you get? How many takes do you get, Dave, to show up?
This is it, baby.
This is it. One time, one shot, right? Just go in, dive in, do it. And
if you say it wrong, then go fix it. Hold on, I said that fucking wrong, right? Yeah. How often in our conversations online, on Facebook, wherever, like, there's a strong possibility that did not read quite the way it sounded in my head. There's a very strong, and so I got to go back and I do it on Live on the Drive and go, wait a minute, that sounded fucked up. Hold on. What I mean is,
right.
And so we get to do that in life.
Yeah.
We get to do that. That did not come off the way I meant for it to come off. I don't want to be the person that thing sounded like, and we get to go make amends to people.
Right.
Right. We get to fix shit, because you only get one shot. But if you never do anything because you're afraid of making a mistake, if you're afraid of failure, if you're afraid of how it's going to end up, you never do anything. Fucking do shit, man.
Yeah, I mean,
And
so when you press the live button, it's not like, a lightning bolt came down and you got hurt and shit. You like,
Right.
and you're out there to. It's not like you're just to your friends, right? You've got it out to the public, right? 100% public.
100% public.
Everybody sees. The potential to be seen is by 2 billion people. So if 2 billion people they could tune in live at one time,
Right.
And so that's awesome. And I find that a little bit liberating too, because I'm like, there's 2 billion people out there. What could possibly go wrong? I'm not a nuclear bomb.
Right. The number one thing, the really big thing to understand is that people are like, well, what if people don't like me? What if people don't like it? Here's the deal about that, because that one comes in, right?
Sure.
The people, and we will liken it to what you do with the fatherhood for the rest of us. The people who need what I have to say, the people who need to hear what I have to say, will hear it.
Right.
It will resonate. It will ring true. It will pierce them.
Yeah.
And they will be attracted to that message. They will be attracted to who I am. Right. Just like you, when you do your fatherhood for the rest of us, the men who are like wandering the desert, and you're that oasis. You're that, oh fuck, this guy so gets it.
Right.
This guy so gets it.
You meet them where they're at. I mean, and they got to be out there looking. I think that I loved it. You jumped on while we were doing the 24 Gurus, which is something you've probably got more information on that than I do. You said you're a big Rumi reader. The 24 Gurus is a little thing that I've been doing, and learning in front of people and bringing it to them. But that's because that's what I'm seeking, and I'm out there getting it. And I'm like, all right, listen, let's do this together. I'm not your answers guy. I'm your let's go together guy. Let's whatever. But you try and meet people where they're at, and
right.
And that's kind of awesome. And they're gonna find you and find the message that they're looking for. Even if whatever I'm saying, they're not hearing what's in my head. They're hearing whatever's in their head. They don't even hear my words. It's whatever they're looking for.
Right.
I totally lifted the live on the drive from you. I don't call it live on the drive, but like I was inspired to do it myself. I mean, I was like, you know what, that's just great. And when I'm driving around, I'm like, this is perfect. I love driving and talking. And
right.
And you kind of find your stride. You're like, I know I caught one of yours. I think you were at a wharf a few weeks back. And
I was when I was out in Oakland, yeah.
And it took you a minute to find your stride, and then like you nailed it, right? You're like, all right, well and you literally said, I got nothing to talk about. Right. And then 10 minutes later.
Right, 10 minutes later, I'm like panting into my phone and like sweating.
Yeah. So the first session looks awesome. I'm excited to that you're doing what you're doing. You're definitely in need, and man, go check out Dave for what he's doing with the Become Limitless. And if you're too shy to talk to him yourself, reach out to me and I'll make an introduction. Happy to do it. But don't be too shy, no doubt. And so let's flip it over to family a little bit. I know we talked about it a little bit, but you grew up as a pretty white bread boy. Is it from the sounds of it, right? You're a la white bread.
Yes. Oh, dude, it's suburban white kid from Pasadena, California. Like it doesn't get, and my parents are from a little shitwater, oil town in the Central Valley of California, a place called Taft. And even before that, my mom was from Coalinga, which is, I mean, and it's like any like postage stamp town in the middle of Texas, Missouri, anywhere else. I mean, it's just like it's 1,000 miles from anywhere, and it's just it's a bunch of hicks doing hick shit, and my dad, my parents were high school sweethearts and got married, and My dad got a job at NASA. He works at JPL. He's worked for NASA my whole life.
Wow.
You know, I grew up thinking it was normal to have like pictures of space like that were actually taken in space, right? Like shit that's actually been in space in your house.
Right.
Like I thought that was like normal shit.
Right.
And you know, and he's a systems architect is what he is, you know, and he's had you know, projects on a lot of space flights, and you know, he worked on the Mariners, and he worked on the, you know, on the first, you know, things that landed on Mars and shit, and I thought that was just normal.
Right.
And you know, I was kind of brought up in this suburban white household, the expectation that I was going to go to college. We got dragged to church every Sunday. My parents were youth ministers when I was growing up, and so we got dragged to church, and I didn't like school. I wanted to cook. That was the only thing I cared about. And that was my experience. I came from a very, very loving family. My parents weren't, my parents, I guess in the end of it all, what I realized is my parents did the best they could with what they had at the time.
Sure.
Right. And I got what I got.
Right.
Right. Just like all of us.
Yeah.
And I had to, as far as fatherhood goes today, I need to understand that I'm doing the very, very best I can with what I have in this moment. And when I can do better, I will do better. But I got to do the best I can.
Absolutely.
You know.
What would you say some of the some of the traits that your father or your parents had that you're continuing? What are some of the things that they did that were awesome? You're like, this is God, this is, and maybe you looked at your wife and you're like, this has to stay because this played such a huge part in my growing up.
You know what? My father was kind of largely hands off, and what I mean by that is not that he was not affectionate. It's not that he didn't. I mean, I remember to this day, like how old I was when I stopped kissing my father on the lips. Like I remember, right? Because I was old enough to be cognitive. Like I remember, like my father was very loving, and what he did is he really kind of gave us space in which to fail, right? He really just kind of gave us space in which we could experiment with different aspects of life. And if we wanted to get involved in this, we could get involved with that. I tried Cub Scouts when I was a kid, and look, if you want to do that, then go do that. I will support you. I will, if when we were trying our hand at baseball, my dad was the T-ball coach,
Right.
and he just, as much involvement as we wanted from him, he was willing to give. As little involvement as we wanted from him, he was willing to give. Which means that he wasn't the coach of all the teams. He wasn't but when we got into band, we were a band family. We weren't a sports family. I was a band family. All four of us were in the band, in the marching band.
What was your instrument?
Oh, baritone horn, baby.
Baritone.
I was a baritone. It's like a giant, it's like a giant trumpet.
Yeah.
It's a little brass. It's like a like a trombone, but it's like a trumpet. It's
it's like a supersized trumpet.
That's it. That's it.
Right.
And all of us, my brother played flute, my sister played a half dozen instruments, my younger brother played trumpet brilliantly, by the way. And so my dad became like the band dad, and our house became like the band house, right? And everybody called my dad Papa G, like that was just the deal.
Nice.
And every night. And so one of the things about my father, he was unconditionally, I say was, he still is, unconditionally loving and accepting of other human beings.
Great.
Like it taught me, we see all this, the racism and the homophobia and the Islamophobia and all this stuff. My father And I may get emotional talking about this, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to apologize for it. I don't give a fuck. I'm just warning you guys. If I get emotional, it's because I'm talking about my dad. My dad's the greatest man who's ever lived. But my father accepted human beings unconditionally at face value. Like, he accepted exactly what they presented as who they were unconditionally. And if we loved them, he loved them. Yeah. If we would bring home a girlfriend, and they were as important to my father as they were to us.
That's amazing.
Right?
That's a great trait. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And as soon as that relationship was over, he's like, well, whatever, there'll be another one. And it was like, man, I sure missed that. What'd you do to fuck that up? It was, I remember the days when I was heartbroken, and that girl broke up with me, and I just needed my dad to fix it. I needed it to be fixed. And I remember the day my dad had tears in his eyes because his son was in pain, and there was nothing he could do. And so he just sat with me. Yeah. He just sat with me and let me hurt, and I remember, like, my first Christmas sober. And Christmas is a big deal in my parents' place, right? So I went over there, my first Christmas sober. And I didn't know where I was supposed to sit at the table. I'd been blacked out by dinner every year since I was fucking 17. Like, right. And I'm 20, where was I? I was 25 at the time. And I didn't know like how to interact. I was newly like living somewhere again. Like I had just, been scrubbed off and cleaned up. I was just 6 months sober. Right. And I was terrified and anxious, and I just kind of, I just went out on the front patio, and here's my dad. My dad just comes and sits down next to me. He's like, is it hard? Mm. Yeah. And I go, yeah, it's hard. He goes, well, what do you need? I'm like, all I'm thinking about is a bottle of booze right now. That's all I'm thinking about. That's all I'm thinking about is the bottle of whiskey that I know you guys have in the cabinet. Like, that's all I'm thinking about. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. And he just sat there. He just held the space for me. Nice. That's all he did. He just held and allowed me to feel it. Allowed me to like sit there and be in pain. Mm. He didn't try to fix it. He didn't try to make it better. He didn't try to anything. He just and it's what I try to do with other men. It's the number one thing that I attempt to emulate, and I attempt to emulate that on the mat in jiu-jitsu when I'm rolling with somebody who's not as experienced, is to just provide them a space in which they're pushed, right? When I'm working with a client, just to hold the space for them to hear their own solutions come out of their mouth, and when we hear them, point them, I go, did you hear that? Yeah. Did you hear what you just said? Right. Like, you've had the answer the entire time. Right. I don't have the answer. You have the answer. Right. And to allow people to, and I do it with my wife. I don't try to fix it. My wife needs to just talk shit out. And I'm like, she doesn't need me to fix it. Your wife doesn't need you to fix it when she's, complaining at you about whatever, Right. She doesn't need you to fix it. She needs you to hold that space and honor that thing that she's going through by holding the space.
How hard has that been for you, especially as a father, when you watch your children, or you've just got your one son, right?
I have my 13-year-old son. I have a 31-year-old stepdaughter. Oh, really? Who, yeah, my wife's my wife had a kid early on in life, and I actually is a whole other story, but I met my stepdaughter before I knew my wife. Interesting. We frequented the same coffee house. She was a ragamuffin 13-year-old kid running around and
like
and
Matilda.
She just hung out. Huh?
Like Matilda from The Professional.
Yeah. She was this, this ragamuffin kid, and she just hung out in this coffee house and read books and wrote poetry and did the same weird shit that I was doing, because I didn't know what to do with myself. And I actually knew her before I knew her mom. And then when me and her mom started dating, she came into the house one day. She's like, "What are you doing with Dave? Like, why is Dave here?
That's
like,
funny.
How did you hook up?" you
That's
know?
funny. That's
And
funny.
so watching so I have, a 31-year-old stepdaughter who's married, and she's amazing. And the 13-year-old boy. And it's really important to me to give him space in which to fail, in which to have his own, and not catch the failure, not mitigate the damage.
Right.
Fail, you know? And he's doing Boy Scouts right now, and when he first mentioned it, I'm like, oh God, not Boy Scouts, anything but Boy Scout, but he's really, really into it.
Sure.
And so I told him, I go, here's the deal. You tell me how involved you want me.
Mm.
If you want me to be the scout master, I'm in.
Sure.
If you want this to be your own autonomous thing, like this is what you do,
Right.
Do it. Do it. This is your experience.
Come on, dude. Was there not a spot in the back of your head where you're like playing to God that he says no?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. But I think the greatest gift we can give to our children is a space, a safe place in which they can find their own autonomy.
Right.
In which they can find out who they are.
Right. Oh yeah.
And that's what I got from my father. Is he just gave me a place in which I could learn. My father knew he could not save me from my alcoholism. He knew it. He knew it broke his heart to watch me.
Yeah.
And he knew that like any wrangling of that was going to be an abject failure.
Yeah.
Right?
You got to find
and
your
I tell
way.
and he was able. There's entire 12-step programs devoted to that ability, to the ability to do that. There's entire, organizations who are, but my dad inherently knew it, right? And the ability to like allow me to just do it, and I've had this conversation with my boy. I'm like, I'm never going to tell you, your mom and I are both sober, right? And we're both sober for our reasons and whatever. But me telling you that you can never drink because I'm sober, like I can't think of a sure way to put your ass at the bottom of a bottle, right?
Sure. Now, you got to ask, so what are some of the statements? What are some of the guidances, right, that you give to say, hey, look, here's where I threw away a shit ton of my life. If you don't make some of the same mistakes that I did, that I'm letting you know about in detail,
right?
Here's the life that you've got to, it's just a lot like the coaching, right? A lot like the coaching. You're a coach, and people seek out a coach so that they can shrink the amount of time that it takes from going and sitting there spinning their wheels to going and being the person they want to be. So I imagine, that's what you do with your child as well. For sure.
But for sure. And what I do, and I tell them what I've done, and what I've told them is being an alcoholic or having a problem, it's not about how much you drink. It's not about when you drink, where you drink, do you drink alone? Do you drink whatever? It's not about that. It's about happens when it's time for you to stop and you find out you can't. Okay. Being an alcoholic isn't about how much you take in. It's about what happens when you try to stop.
Okay.
When it was time for you, you hit the brakes and came to a nice stop. It might have been a little bit difficult in those first few days or whatever, but there was reason, there was motivation. You hit the brakes and you stopped. Every single time up to the last time that I had tried to quit drinking, I hit the brakes, and it was like locking them up on ice. It was a devastating failure of an attempt. Right. And so, and that's how it is. And I go, look, the truth is if if this gene goes live on you, basically you're fucked until you've taken this to its like brutal, painful end. Right. So know that unless you develop some coping skills now, this is what's waiting for you if this gene goes live on you.
Right.
But the other thing is know that if the day comes and it's time to stop and you find out you can't, that's the moment you pick up the phone.
Yeah.
That's the moment you call the old man.
Yeah.
You know, and the one thing that I've told him, and it's been the most important to me, and the one thing I'll tell him is like, look, I don't care if you were somewhere you shouldn't have been. I don't care if you were with people you shouldn't have been with. Like none. I don't care if you lied to me. I don't care. And like the circumstance does not matter. But if your choice is get in a car with somebody who's loaded or call your old man, the answer is call your old man.
Right.
Call your dad.
Right.
I will drive. If you are in Vegas, I will drive to Vegas. If you are in fucking Atlanta, I will drive to Atlanta. Like I will get you home, and we will not talk about it that night. What the hell happened is not going to be what the conversation. Like
Right.
you will not be met by a pissed off dad who wants to know what the fuck just happened.
Yeah, I mean that serves no one really, right? In the end, so I definitely appreciate that, and I really admire the like I said, the giving them the space to fail, giving them that time to kind of have that space to themselves where. Like one of the reasons I asked about kind of is it hard to do, right? I mean, because to me it feels like it's hard to watch them fail. It seems hard to watch them
You
be in
want to
that
fix
space.
it so bad.
Yeah,
You want to
yeah,
fix it. You want to
yeah.
make it okay. You want to fix their feelings is what you want to fix.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not as good, and this could be something that I could learn absolutely from you. And that's one of the reasons for these conversations, by the way. It's not always like, yeah, I want to take you and I want to share you with the audience, but I need some help myself, right? And I don't know of a father that can do it on his own out there, and
Because there isn't one. There isn't one.
Right. And so that's part of the other difficulty, and this is something that you bring up too, is making that network of men of who aren't just like a room full of douchebaggery, who are like trying to help each other out, and this is one of the reasons why I have the conversations, like so I can learn something, right? Because my kid wallows a little bit. I look back and I say, I'm like, this may be the right thing or the wrong thing, but I look back and I say, dude, do you like how you feel right now? If they're wallowing, and if they say no, I'm like, well then stop it. Stop feeling that way, because I don't like it. Nobody else in here likes it. And it's that much, it's a choice. Right. Because, and the reason I say that to them, because I wasn't taught at that age.
Right.
And maybe I was, as parents, how much, as kids, how much shit do we pay attention to? Right. You got
I'm going to get into a coaching moment for just a second. Here is an option just because I identify with that. Okay. Here's the deal. You can feel the way you're feeling. You're welcome to feel the way you're feeling. The way you're feeling is valid. It's fine. Feel it. You're welcome to feel that way for 5 more minutes. Then you get up and get your ass out of the house. What you're feeling is fine. You got 5 more minutes on it. After that, we're done.
Love it. Yeah. And that's I would use that. I will use that. So thank you for that. I mean, you brought up your wife too, and it's not easy being married, first of all. But you've also got a wife, and she's a teacher, correct?
2nd grade teacher. Yeah.
2nd grade teacher. Talk about that relationship and how I think it's nice to have a person with a teacher mentality too, working with you and your son, and how just kind of talk about being married, man. Talk about being a father in a married life.
My wife is very, very easy to love. Right? My wife is very, very easy to love. And when we talk about marriage, it's really important that I throw that out there. Loving somebody is super, super, super easy. Okay? Particularly my wife. She is super easy to love. Living with somebody takes some fucking work.
Oh man.
And what it takes work on is me. Okay? What it takes work on is me. Understanding my wife is exactly as she's supposed to be.
Right.
She's exactly as God made her to be. Faults and all. Right? She's living her experience. She's living her own thing and learning at her own pace and doing her own thing. As a teacher, it's great, because there's a lot of stuff. I was not interested in school when I was a kid. I was not interested. And I've been blown away by her, like the things that she paid attention to in my son's early life. He is a voracious reader right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
He is a voracious reader. I mean, and by the time he was out of third grade, he was just like, he was chewing through books that were way beyond his level.
Right.
Like third, fourth grade, he was chewing through the Da Vinci Code and 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 all the other books by that guy, and like reading it at a really, really, really high level. Um, and what she did, that mentality, and she's an artist as well. Uh, she's an artist as well, and we have, my house is full of like oil paintings and pastel stuff and charcoal drawing, like they're all just, my house is literally like full of art, which is rad. Um, But what she does is in the way that I provide physical experiences for my son and provide a physical environment, she has provided this mental and emotional space for him
Nice.
that's been spectacular. Like a
Awesome.
challenging mental environment for him. They talk about books, and now he's recommending books to her, and she goes, "Okay, I'll read it." And then he starts quizzing her on them,
To
right?
make sure she's reading it. That's cool.
Make sure she's reading it and make sure she's comprehending it and whatever.
Right.
But I've gotten to go into classrooms and in years past, when I had my catering company, when I was doing private chefing, I had the opportunity. I was going into a classroom every year and cooking with these second graders.
Oh, cool.
It was so rad.
What would you teach them?
I've made bread with them. We've done like highfalutin French pastry
Right.
with these kids, because it's not hard. It's just impressive looking. We made brioche bread. We made these beautiful tarte tatin, which are like these upside down apple pies that are crazy and fun and easy to make. And we show these kids how to mix up stuff, and I get them chopping apples.
Nice.
We've made ice cream. We've made butter. We made our own bread, and then we made our own butter.
Oh yeah, that sounds delicious.
Because if you can make your own butter, what else can you make? Bing,
Right. Whipped cream.
Right? Doesn't butter come in like little sticks or in churn? What do you mean?
Hey, how do you make butter?
You take whipped cream, so you make your own whipped cream.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then keep shaking it.
Keep going.
And you just keep going, because that's all butter is. Right. So get a quart container with a nice sturdy lid, fill it 2/3 of the way with whipped cream, give it to with whipping cream, give it to your boys. Heavy whipping, give it to your boys. So don't stop shaking this thing. And sooner or later, it'll all fill with air and it'll stop shaking. You open the lid, that's whipped cream.
That's awesome.
Put the lid back on it, keep shaking, but it's not shaking. It'll shake, just keep shaking. And sooner or later, it like all the fats start globbing together, and it goes chunk, 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 chunk. And you go, that's fine, just keep shaking. And then you drain the whey out.
Right.
Okay, because you'll see it all. Now it's all chunked down at the bottom. And then you grab a little spoon, you go try that. What is that? And you just made butter.
Yeah, I'm doing it tonight.
It's just heavy cream.
I'm going to get some heavy cream. I'm going to make some bread, and oh man.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's awesome. I mean, dude, we could probably let's just touch on food for a second. All right. Just for like, I know we just did. You've posted a couple times, just like, what goes into your mouth is also another one of your choices. And making healthy meals isn't that hard. And making good, tasty meals isn't that hard.
Right.
Let's talk about like how important that is in your life and like your child's life, man. Being able to teach them how to cook, it's vital.
Right. It's funny. The food thing. The food thing is a funny thing. My wife is a vegetarian, a pescatarian, who doesn't eat sugar or flour. Okay. And was that way when we met. She eats fish. It's the only meat she eats. But she doesn't eat sugar and she doesn't eat flour. And I was a chef and I was cooking. Where was I cooking? I was cooking some highfalutin place when we met. And like my one big ace that I could play, like I'm a chef. Boom. Right. She's like, yeah, I don't care about any of that shit. I don't eat that stuff. I don't care. And she liked me anyway. Which means stick around on that one. Fucking, boys, we're done here. Like my one big ace that I could play, she did not give one fuck about.
Right.
And she liked me anyway. I'm like,
right.
We're done here.
Right.
The search is over, fellas. But what's happened over the years is I've been able to show her, because when we met, she was eating the most horrible, boring, god awful, because she was concerned about her. She was eating healthy, and it was important to her to eat healthy.
Right.
And she showed me what she would eat. I'm like, that's not good. Okay. She's like, no, it's good. I go, no,
You
it's
mean
not.
you mean it doesn't taste good?
Yeah. I'm like, it's edible, but it's not good.
Right.
Right.
Which is the difficulty.
Which is a difficulty. And so, like frozen spinach. And I'm like, stop that. And then I got to show her this like whole world of like fresh products.
Yeah.
And things that were, and for years and years and years, I've made her on special occasions. I would make this crazy dessert that I would like figure out workarounds to different stuff. And I've made chocolate cakes that she could eat, no sugar, no flour. Right. And not sugar substitutes either. Not like instead we just put NutraSweet in it. No, like how am I gonna make that?
Right.
And chocolate souffles and dessert stuff. The pastry chef who did our wedding cake created a wedding cake for my wife that was 100% what she could eat.
Right.
And so that's been a big gift. And to be able to explore not only, foods that are healthy and vital, but you can also eat. Now my son eats like pizza and
Sure.
whatever, but at a very young age he also got into sushi, and because we exposed him to a lot. Now when kids are small, the reason they don't like vegetables is because they're very, very, very bitter to them.
Right.
Okay, that's why that you can't get them to eat green shit. It's because it's very, very bitter. Okay. And there are a few things my son liked as a kid. What we have, and here's the dad tip, guys: frozen peas in their frozen state. They're cold, they're sweet, they're fun. You can eat them with your fingers. You can flick them at your brother. You can, right?
That's funny.
And and he would eat like bowls full of frozen peas.
Huh.
In their frozen state. Why am I spending time? They're cold, they're fun, and they're like little pieces of candy.
Yeah.
And so that's how we've gotten into food in our house. And the deal is that he's willing to try anything. He's willing to try stuff. And it's been a good experience. And we found things that he likes. We found things that he just hates, and he hates like the weird, like he doesn't like peaches or pineapple. I'm like, what's the matter with you?
I think you end up coming around on those sooner or later.
Yeah, your taste changes, but he loves broccoli and spinach. Like whatever. That's what we're calling that a victory, and run with it.
Right.
That's
cool. Does he cook with you at all? Does he ever cook with you?
He's done some stuff with me. Yeah, he's actually, it's been a while. No, he knows how to cook a steak.
Nice.
He cooked with me. We did a whole pig, Roman porchetta style, and I tried to freak him out. I slammed this. He went to the kitchen with me, and I took this whole suckling pig, this 30-pound suckling pig, out of the refrigerator. The thing was just gutted. That was it. And I slammed it on the table. I'm like, okay, we're gonna make this. I was hoping to kind of traumatize him a little bit.
Right. Sure.
I'm comfortable with the therapy bills later. Just this is gonna be fun to do. And I'm like, all right, what do we name him? And he's like, okay, Yum. Well, and he watched me bone out this entire pig and helped me make this stuff.
That's cool.
And so he cooks with me. He can make steak. He can do his own stuff. He makes his own. He is responsible for his lunches.
Okay.
Every day, and he's responsible for planning them.
Right.
For planning them, for making the grocery list for him, and his favorite one right now is teriyaki chicken with fried rice.
So he makes that for himself for his lunches?
For his lunches every day, and we make it on Sunday. He makes it on Sunday.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he's pre-cooks the chicken and then cools it, right? And he makes the rice, then dumps it out of the pan, and adds the egg and the vegetables and all the stuff, and knows how to do his whole thing. And then he like, you know, we watch like grown-ups do, they post it on Instagram and Facebook, meal prep for the week done. Like, he does that shit, but he's 13, not a grown-ass
That's
man
awesome.
trying to
That's
figure
awesome.
out how to lose for 30 pounds. He does it because he grew up with a chef for a dad,
Yeah.
and prepping stuff out only makes sense.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. And for me growing up, I grew up, my grandfather was the cook, and so being around, watching a man cook all the time, inspired me to cook. And I love to cook because of that inspiration that I had. And so I'm hoping my kids get that, right? I get them involved. I get them to come
Right.
over to dig into making meatballs, rubbing their hands in the meat, making
Yeah.
making pizza dough, whatever, whatever I'm cooking. I'm like, come on over and give it a shot.
Right.
So trying to get them in, and because my wife grew up without anybody cooking, really. You know what I mean? She got like a bunch of box food and whatnot, and now she can cook. I mean, when we first got together, she wouldn't cook just because
Right.
she wasn't raised that way. And you just think about all the great food that you miss out on.
Right.
And I'm always reminded of I was kind of joke about, remember that, you've seen The Matrix, yeah? Once or twice. Yeah. So, he
I
goes,
actually just watched it with my son for the first time. He saw The Matrix for the first time.
that's awesome.
Whoa.
But he goes, well, how do you know that steak tastes like steak? Right. Because a lot of times sometimes you just go, you get the food they have at the grocery store, like fruit in the summertime.
Right.
And versus, you go to a grocery store, you buy a peach, like you talk peaches, you can go to a grocery store and buy a peach, or you can go to the farm stand and buy a peach. Those are two worlds apart, right? I mean, come on. It's like with some of the food that we've been fed, you can't, that's not even, you got to stop calling it food.
Right.
Right. And I want my kids to know the difference if they go out and they're being bamboozled, like, this isn't food.
Right.
Right.
We've done field trips. We've done fun field trips. I take my kid, we've gone to like local farms.
Okay.
We go to local farm for my birthday, usually every year. And we've done blueberry picking and all this crazy stuff. And we get fresh produce and all this stuff. So my boy not only knows, but he knows that my heroes are farmers. I'm a chef. My heroes are farmers.
Okay. Yeah.
My heroes are farmers and butchers.
That's
right.
Awesome. Yeah.
The guys who raise the food.
Yeah.
And going and being a part of that thing, like my son has a real connection to like real food.
Right. That's great.
You
Yeah,
know?
I think it's huge. I think that plays a huge part, and it's exciting, just knowing how deep you are into food as well. That I just think that it's cool that we something else we share. A couple more, and then we'll kind of rat-a-tat out of here. Maybe we'll catch up again a second time. You also mentioned that growing up in the band family, the instruments. Does your son play band, and or also could you talk about like how that really shaped your mind too?
Well, for growing up, as far as it shaped my mind, what it taught me is that I'm not a musician. Okay, I was a singer when I was a kid. I was in a boys choir. I mean, no bullshit. The man you see before you, I was a real choir boy. Red robe and white ruffly thing, the whole nine.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna need that. If you have a picture of that, I'm gonna need that to post with this one.
No, I'll see if I can find you one. But I was a real deal choir boy, and I loved it. Then my voice changed and turned to gravel, and it was I never sang meaningfully ever again. But during that time, I really loved it. And I got into instruments when I was very young, and I played half a dozen of them. And what I found is by the end of high school is what I discovered, and music was a very big thing in my family. My mom had a full paid scholarship to Juilliard. Like music was a big thing for us, And by the end of high school, I had learned that I could make the notes, but not the music.
Okay.
And I kind of had to give up music. Like I had to, and there's another big failure. I thought it was a failure of mine. Mm-hmm. I can make the note. I can't make music. I cannot do it. I've watched people my entire life do it with ease.
Right.
I could coax the notes out of my horn.
Right.
I could not make it make music.
Right.
The way I watched other people make instruments make music.
Sure.
I could pick up and finger bang a guitar, and and never produce anything that sounded like my boy who could pick up and just nail some shit. I'm like,
Right.
it's just not in me.
Yeah.
And having to let go of something that just wasn't in me.
Yeah.
My son he's had, he's had a keyboard, which he never really got into. He had one teacher who taught him the ukulele, so we bought him a ukulele, and the minute we bought him a ukulele, he never fucking touched it again.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
At the moment you show interest.
Right, he was super into it, and we're like, cool, well, here's a ukulele. And he's like,
Right.
that's cool. You know?
Yeah.
But I would imagine that if he picked it up, he could bang it out.
Right.
He hasn't shown a ton of interest in music.
Okay.
He's a lot like me in that he likes music.
Right.
And what's been interesting is watching his tastes in music evolve. Like, he doesn't like the same shit that I like, and he likes some of it, but like he likes Ice Cube, thank God, like I introduced him to Ice Cube, and he's like, this is where it's at,
Right on.
but he likes like heavy hip hop,
Right.
but he also likes, he's into stuff his mom likes, and me and my wife do not see eye to eye on music at all.
Right.
All.
That's funny.
Like,
What's she
we
into?
just can't. She's into real artsy shit, She's into real artsy, and I'm like, that sounds discordant. I'm into real basic kind of music. I'm into like hip hop and heavy metal, and like old school hip hop and R&B and heavy metal. And I just went to the Metallica concert.
Oh, right on. That's right. Yeah.
And but I'm into real, and I'm into some weird instrumental stuff. I'm into like really kind of like modern
Yanni.
Sort of classical type stuff, like big epic orchestral music, and I'm big into that. But watching his taste in music kind of develop has been cool. He'll let me listen to something like that.
Right on.
But yeah, growing up as a band family, my older brother, and my baby sister stuck with music, and they still are very involved in music. My brother sings and does stuff, and he played half a dozen instruments, but myself and my younger brother, by the time we were out of high school, we were like,
done.
Having the musical education was great.
Right.
Because it kind of kept us out of trouble for the most part. Because we were hanging out with the band geeks. The biggest trouble band geeks getting into is making too much noise on the bus or whatever.
Right.
Yes. I mean, by the end of high school, I was drinking with some of the drummers. When we were drinking. But that was like the big. But we weren't stealing shit or finding gangs to join or whatever. We were we were getting to some serious like suburban white trouble.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm familiar. I am super familiar. Super familiar. Couple more. Just these two at least. What's a book or two that's totally changed your life and just like had a major impact? Myself, I didn't start I read a lot as a child, like a ton, and then I stopped for like 20 years. Right. And then just recently, I've just started devouring like books I never would have imagined myself picking up, like Zig Ziglar books, the Carol Dweck growth mindset book. And since then it's had this huge impact on me. How about yourself?
You know what? I am no kind of reader. I wish I was a reader.
Okay.
As far as books that had a huge impact on me, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous had a huge impact on me, and I carry around a copy of that book with me to this day. Because you know what, I liked I liked the Da Vinci Code. I got things getting things, but I'm not a book guy. I just tore through the Prosperous Coach with Rich Litvin and Steve Chandler.
Okay.
That was really amazing for me. I'm listening right now to the Audible of Think and Grow Rich. and here we go. Here's congratulations. Here's the question I don't want to answer. I'm no kind of reader. I wish I was a reader. I have a stack of books over here that one of my coaches gave me this great, amazing reading list.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought every single one of them the day he gave me that list.
Right.
And if not, I got Gary Vee, I got Richard Branson, I got all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
And I get a few pages into a book and I'm like, and
yeah.
and I think that's probably my next hurdle is figuring out how to get myself reading. And is it, do I do Audible? Do I start listening to all these books or whatever?
I'm gonna hop in here, right? A little bit of double Dutch. For me, right, it took me a while to pick up speed again, right? As a child, I read a lot, no problem.
Right.
It probably took me about 2 to 3 months to ramp back up to being able to read consistently. Because I would pick up the book, like you said, a few minutes would come in, and I would fall asleep. I'd be like, oh,
right,
knocked out, right? But I came across an article. It just said, hey, habit stack. If you read just like 20 minutes a day. Just don't gun for trying to read the whole fucking book in one sitting.
Right.
Go for 5 pages. Go for 6 pages. Right. Small, just like everything else you're teaching. Go for small wins. Next thing you're done with a book. 20 pages a day is 200 pages. 20 pages a day is 20 books a year.
There you go.
And you get that, and I know you're not in this. I wouldn't put you in like this productivity like mode, but like anybody's trying to, that's just key sell point for anybody trying to get into productivity. Like if you read, imagine the leg up that you've got and the knowledge that you've got if you've got 20 books to your name that nobody else is doing. Anyways,
well, I'll tell you what. Once again, you heard it here first. I will commit to you 20 pages a day for the next 30 days.
Do it, man. Do it. At the end of that 30 days, you'll complete that's 3 books. That's 3 200-page books. I mean, really,
I will commit 20 pages to you. I will commit to you, and you can put this out there.
Do it.
I will commit 20 pages a day to you.
Yeah, man.
For 30 days.
Yeah, give it a shot. I feel that you'll see it. You'll see it, and your head will just. For me, man, it's almost relieving. The sense of like you're like, man, I just read this. I feel great. I feel great. So do it, man. I think that I'm excited.
I do want to say this about mindset, and it's really important because of what just happened in my head, right? Because I said I'm not a very good reader. I wish I was a great reader, and you said 20 pages a day, and I'm like, and I immediately went, nope, right? Can't do that. And then the part of me that makes me me, the part of me that stands out to you goes, really, bitch, you can't put down 20 pages a day. Right. Commit to that motherfucker right now.
It's nothing to it. It's nothing to it. Yeah.
I have this guy in the back of my head, and I think that guy's the Diesel, right? My nickname is the Diesel, right? Wolfgang Puck laid that nickname on me years ago because he couldn't break my station, and I have the Diesel in there, and this guy goes, really, bitch, really, 20 pages a day, you cannot, right? Physically impossible, really, bullshit.
Yeah.
And so that's why I just did that.
I wasn't gonna call you out. I mean, I figured you'd let you ruminate in that. Because I just for me, it's made a hell of a lot of difference. And you've got your tools right now. Just imagine, you've got that filled. You've got an arsenal for you're helping. You're doing it. You're reading as a service to others.
Right. Oh, for sure.
So I used to ask this question. I used to phrase this question a little bit differently. I used to say, what would you like to tell your children in 10 years? Right. But I'm going to change that one up. I'm going to change that one from that to, what is a letter that you'd like to receive from your child in 10 years? Your child writes you a letter. What would you like that letter to say?
I would like to say thank you for all the times that you let me be angry at you. That you were okay with me being angry at you. Because he's gonna be angry at me. when I don't let him have his own way, and when I say no to things that he thinks are really important and I think are really detrimental. When when I enforce upon him rules and restrictions and boundaries that he does not understand, rules that he doesn't think are right, and rules that he doesn't think are fair. As his father, it's my job to impose boundaries. And really, in 10 years, I want him to write me a letter that says, "Thank you for allowing me to be as angry at you as I was, without it affecting what you did." Right?
Right.
We don't get to not have our kids be upset with us. We
Right.
don't. If your kid is pissed off at you, you're doing something right. I'm sorry.
Love it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Our biggest job as fathers, our biggest job as parents, okay? And to understand that everybody's doing their job makes doing your job easier. It is our job to set the boundaries and our job to hold the boundaries, and it's their job to push the boundaries. And it's our job to hold the boundaries, and it's their job to push the boundaries. And it's our job to hold the boundaries, and it's their job to push the boundaries. And it never stops. It started when they were infants.
Yeah.
And they wanted more and more and more and more and more. And then they were toddlers, and then they pushed the boundaries. They pushed the boundaries. It is not safe for you to not have an enclosure. Would you
liken that to like just the deep end of the pool and just say, hey man, you're not a strong enough swimmer yet, you're type of thing. Or maybe describe to me how you see them, like when you see them pushing their boundaries, how does that make you? I mean, you talk a little bit about that.
You know what? Son loves comic books. It's his big. He's a super nerd. 7th grade, he just passed the AP Calculus exam.
I know. Congratulations again. That's awesome. That's
ridiculous.
Amazing.
I'm so afraid right now. But you know what he struggles with is keeping his room clean because he's a 13-year-old boy. Like that's what he does. He makes a goddamn mess. He leaves his towel on the floor. That's his job. Like that's what he does.
That's his job.
His job. He doesn't make his bed and he leaves his shit everywhere. He's 13. And for me to get mad at him for that means that I don't understand who he's supposed to be right now.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right? For me to get angry at him for that says that I have zero understanding of exactly who he's supposed to be.
Sure.
But what I can do is I can set boundaries and I go, look, you earn an allowance, you earn this, and we have a whole set of agreements.
Right.
And I talked about this one time on Live on the Drive. And I say, every week I give you this amount of money.
Right.
The agreement is that you do this list of things.
Right.
Now, every week I meet my end. And I take a look around his room and I go, are you holding up your end? And then it becomes real simple and black and white.
Right.
Right? There's a reason why you are not getting your money this week.
Right.
Right? And then, he'll do a quick slapdash, half-ass job before school on Wednesday so he can get that tenner so he can go to the comic book store.
Right.
Which I love that he's not going to the arcade or anywhere else. He's going to the comic book store.
Sure.
Which makes me almost want to give it to him anyway. But the fact is the deal is the deal is the deal is the deal is the deal.
Yeah. How does he react? So, I mean, is he the one who says, yeah, I didn't hold up my end this time?
Yeah. It used to be a more emotionally involved thing. But like he understands, like we've gotten really good with boundaries. Like he understands that I'm going to set boundaries that he's not going to like, and really that's one of the things that I've really imposed. Like he understands that I'm going to tell you some things and you're not going to like them.
Right.
And I don't care that you don't like them.
What would be one of those things?
Like, no, I'm not going to give you money, or you have to clean up your room, or you didn't do what you said you were going to do. So now you can't do this other thing. Right?
Yeah.
Or, the other day, because he's a kid, he loves his phone and whatever.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff that he hadn't done because he's a kid and that's his job, that he's been poking at his phone instead of, doing, his homework or doing his housework or doing his whatever. And, and I'm like, this is done by this time, or you surrender your phone to me until such time as it is done.
Right. No, that's fair. Hey, I think it's fair. You've got to have that. You've got to have
The
that.
most important lesson I've ever taught my son was when he was maybe 4 or 5. And I'm a spanking dad, I mean, I can count on the fingers of my hand the times that I've spanked my son. And every time I spanked my son, it was my bare hand on his bare ass, and that was the way it was. It was always after the moment had passed, so I was never doing it in anger, because I know anybody's gonna, there's gonna be people listening to this going, spanking is abuse, and but one time we were out and he was being a pill. Right, he was being a pill, and I guess, as far as fatherhood goes, if there's one thing that I can pass on to your audience, this was a turning point in my life as a father and my son's life and our relationship. This was an absolute turning point. And he was being a pill, and I'm making his mom crazy, and I'm telling him to stop and do it, and finally, I go, if you keep it, I go, if you do it again, when we get home, you're going to get a spanking, right? And of course, he did it again, right? And I'm like, when we get home, you're getting a spanking,
right?
And he snapped right to, and he squared himself right away, and he was a delight the rest of the day, because he's like, oh shit, right?
Right.
And I'm like, that's it. When we get home, you're getting a spanking, and we weren't home for hours, and I wasn't about to beat his ass in public, right? Right. Because that's not acceptable. I don't care if, like, whatever. I'm not about to spank my son in public.
Right.
He don't need that. I don't need that. The public doesn't need that. Nobody needs that.
Right.
Right. And so it was hours before we got home. And when we got home, he went to his room, and I walked in right behind him, and I sat down. And he looked at me, and I'm like, so what did I tell you?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, when we got home, I was going to get a spanking. And I go, yep. And he goes, but I was good the rest of the day. I'm like, you were good the rest of the day, which is why we got to do some of the fun things we got to do. It's why you got the treat that you got. It's why we had the fun that we had. No, you shaped up, and you were great the rest of the day. And that was why we were able to have as much fun as we were able to have today. But the most important thing I can ever impress upon you is that if it comes out of your father's mouth, it happens.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
And and the one thing I need my son to know is that if it comes out of my mouth, he can take it to the bank, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's something he's looking forward to, whether it's something he's not looking forward to. And if I say we're going to Disneyland tomorrow, or Disneyland in a week, if he asks me every single, are we still going to Disneyland? Like, did I say it? If I said it, it's happening.
Right.
Like, that's the end. Like, if I said it, it's happening. And I go, so what's going to happen now? And he goes, a spanking. And that was the last time I ever spanked him. That was the last time I ever spanked him. Right. And I later, and weeks later, I'm like, do you need to spank him when we get home? He's like, nope. Because he knew, like water's wet and fire's hot. It was going to happen.
It was going to happen.
It was going to happen.
I think it's imperative that, if you set those boundaries, if you set anything you say, you follow through. I think, what was it? You posted something, Meg posted something about burning their Pokemon cards. And you're like, well, now you got to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Now you got to do it.
You said it.
You said it. Now you got to do it. And that's the thing, right? It's definitely key. And I think that I know that it shows up, right? I know that, sometimes, depending on what it is that you say, the kids know that you're going to follow through.
Right.
And I think that's huge. Otherwise they're not going to respect you or the words that come out of your mouth.
The problem is, it's not that you lose in that moment, right? The first time you cave, it's not that you lose in that moment. Okay. But in that moment, you lose when they're 14 years old.
Yeah.
That's the minute you say that you let them know that you can be negotiated with, that your word is malleable, that it is not set,
Right.
right? The minute that your word becomes like permeable, it becomes porous, it becomes weak, right? Then that's the moment that just gets filed away. And when they're 14 and they dare you to make good on that weak ass bullshit threat that
Right.
you know was weak and bullshit, and they walk out the fucking door.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's another key element there that I would say is that the threats can't be so brandy. The threats have to be, you have to be able to follow through on them, right? You can't
And then you have to follow through
right,
on.
yeah,
Then
yeah, yeah.
have to do it.
You have to.
You
really
have
do.
to do it.
You really do. Yeah. No, it's and for me that's the truth. And it's not like I don't. And for me, a big thing for me, Dave, is I don't want to lead, and I don't want to lead from a place of fear, right?
Right.
For me, that's huge. Like I'm like I don't want to. So I'm always finding myself rephrasing what I just said to him, like instead of saying do this to be, or else I have to take it away from you. I'm like, do this so that you can keep your shit, right? So
Right.
I don't want to take it from you, but you do. You do it so you can keep it. Do whatever.
I offer power and I offer choices to children.
Right.
Okay, here's the deal. You can continue to do what you're doing, and this will be the result. Or you can do this, and this will be the result.
Right.
I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm telling you the results of either choice.
Right.
And I leave it to you. And it's it's parenting through love and logic. I don't know if you've read it. If you haven't, get into it.
No, parenting through love and logic.
Through love and logic,
I thought
dude.
you didn't read.
I just read the cliff notes. But the concept is look, you give them power.
Yeah.
You give them choices.
Yeah.
You can take your bath now, or you can take your bath in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And give them that choice. They now have been given autonomy.
Right.
They have been given a choice.
Right.
Of course, they're going to choose in 20 minutes. But what you didn't give them a choice over is whether or not they're going to take a bath.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Take
No,
a bath
absolutely.
now,
I love
take
it.
a bath
I love
in
it.
20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But see now, and that's where you open up their autonomy.
Right.
Right? That's where you open up, because now they're making choices for themselves.
Absolutely.
Now that what do I want?
That's great.
And you're offering them choices, and you are empowering them, because we have to empower our kids.
Yeah, I think
have to give them, yes, we put boundaries in place, but we have to empower them to make decisions within their own boundaries.
No, that's awesome. I think that's that's paramount. I think that's awesome. Thanks for that one as well. Quick one, then we're done. Essential elements. So I'm preface this with, this is something I'm working on myself, right? Just setting up like essential elements of fatherhood, maybe like 3 or 4, 2 or 3. I don't know. Give me a couple that you think are just baseline for fatherhood.
Absolutely. Consistency with word and act. Like if you say it has to happen, period, end of statement, full stop, right?
Right.
If you say it happens. You know what, I'm almost willing to say the rest is negotiable. You
Really?
know, like, you know what, because I think about hard, like, consistency. You know, here's what it is. Your kids are going to emulate somebody, and you will, and here's your one moment. Okay, you get to choose that it's going to be you, or you get to choose that you don't get to choose. Right?
How do you
like
make
with
sure
daughters.
It's you? How do you make sure it's you?
Okay. Well, by modeling something that is worth emulating. By modeling a man that is worth emulating. I tell guys with daughters, you know, guys are like, freak, I got 3 daughters. What am I going to do? I go, here's the deal. Your daughter, the way you treat their mother will be the way that they will expect men to treat them. Okay? And they will hold every single male in their life to the standard that you set right now.
Right.
You get to choose in this moment who your daughter is going to marry by deciding right now what you are going to model.
That's perfect. No, that's great. And I lied. I got one other question on top of it. I'll take those two, and then just because how does your son see you making the shift and transfer into what you're doing now, and how do you feel about that? You know, the transfer you're making now, getting to the way I see it, you're chasing it. You're not chasing. You're living a dream now. You're doing something that you dreamt about, and you're getting to see your child's getting to see that. How does that?
What better thing can we teach to our children? What better thing can we model to our children than being vulnerable? I was honest with him about my fear.
Yeah.
I was honest with him about the tight finances that we were in for a minute there, right? Like, it's going to get sticky for a second. It's going to get tight. We're fine, but understand that you know, luxuries are going to drop for a minute. You know, it's going to get real tight for a minute. But what better thing can we model for our children than courage, than the willingness to dream huge, the willingness to fail, the willingness to, like, you know, my son came with us. He got to watch me jump out of an airplane when I went skydiving, right? He was brokenhearted that there was an age limit, right?
Oh, right.
And like, the tickets for his 18th birthday have already been purchased.
That's awesome.
Like, when the day he turns 18, we're all jumping out of an airplane.
That's great.
You know, but emulating, but setting that up, having him watch me do Tough Mudders, having him watch me do Spartan races, having him watch me win world championships in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and go to a tournament the next week and get my ass fucking handed to me. I mean, in brutal, like, style, and being the same guy.
Right.
Being the same, win or lose, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess that's like that's kind of the big deal. That's getting to model that, getting to show him that winning, well, yes, while it's more fun to win than it is to lose.
Sure.
It's more fun to make a lot of money than it's to be stressful. But any life you want, anything you want, you can have as long as you're willing to work for it. There is nothing you can't have. And if you can take your successes and your failures in the exact same stride, like your monumental successes and your fantastic failures, do not change your gait one little bit. You are the same human being in every single area of your life, facing challenge, facing obstacles, facing huge victory, facing monumental defeat. If your countenance, if your humor, if your willingness to laugh, if your willingness to hug your kids, if your willingness to be kind to strangers doesn't depend on extrinsic shit, then what we're modeling to our children is a life of limitless possibility.
I love it. That's perfect, dude. I love it. Love it. Let's close it down. Anything that you feel like we missed on this one, that we've got time to cover?
Yeah. Yes. You said something interesting, and you said that you have these things because you want to send it to your guys to so you can offer them something that they can learn from, but really you're asking the questions that you need to
oh
hear.
yeah, look, I'm asking, in all honesty, I asked the questions, I can't say mostly for me, but they're the questions that are most present in me, right? And the way that I see these conversations, and this is, I mean, I say this all the time, that is how I see these conversations. You're having a different conversation than I'm having right now. You're and then once this goes out there, just like you said earlier, this is going to, the person that's looking for information is going to find what they're looking for out of our conversation that probably neither one of us intended to have.
Right. Right.
And that's the truth of the matter. And I need, more, like we talk about, more males, more men that I'm able to turn to and have the camaraderie to have those male conversations to not like, I don't feel like I'm alone,
Right.
but it's a lot better if I know that I'm with somebody. Right.
For sure.
And that's, this for me is, I get it all at once, I guess. And I get to establish a good friendship. I think you and I already know each other a fair amount outside of this, but there's a number of these conversations that are had where this is our first interaction between myself and
Right.
the member, and that's where we develop our friendship, or not.
Right. Or not.
Or not. And so I really enjoy the whole process of it.
Right.
I really do.
And to understand that for me, every client I have, every conversation like this that I have, it's about me understanding this whole thing. By the way, just in case you didn't know, this whole thing the whole purpose of this thing was for me to realize that I can do more reading. Like that's like you were born so that we could have this friendship, so we could have this conversation, so that I would be placed in an uncomfortable enough place on camera where I was like, no, I'm gonna start reading more.
I couldn't believe you said I can't. I was like, this doesn't even make any sense to me.
Right.
Coming from a limitless person.
Right. And so that's the whole thing is to remain open to whatever I'm supposed to be learning here, and asking the questions. My clients bring to me stuff, and I will give them some strong instructions and go, here are some things you could try to deal with this situation you got going on. And I'm going to close my computer. I'm going to go, God damn, that was some fucking good shit. I'm going to attempt that, and really it wasn't about them. It was about me.
Sure.
And I got a whole rant, and I'm actually going to do a live on the drive tonight on this exact subject, and I'm going to tag you in it.
Oh, do it. Anything else you think we should have covered? Anything else? I mean, dude, we could always pick it up again though too. We could do a part two or something.
There's lots of time. I think that we covered a lot of ground. I think this was a great conversation.
Absolutely, man. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Yeah, no, me too. You're one of those guys that I got to come across in the community and really go, like when you meet people either in person or online or whatever, and you're like, this is my motherfucker. This is crew. This guy is who, like, if
ride or die.
If he lived in ride or die, bitch, right? But like if he lived here, our wives would be like, Jesus, guys.
Absolutely.
Room,
Absolutely.
And I have a whole bunch of men in my life that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a whole bunch of guys in this online community that are like that, and I meet and like we are immediately crew. We are just, these are my boys. These are my kindred spirits, and being able to attract you and be attracted to what you're bringing in this whole little group that we got, kind of putting together is kind of mind blowing right now. And it's just awesome. I'm humbled and I'm honored and I'm just grateful to be in such an amazing circle of men right now.
Yeah, I think we're in an amazing place, man. And thank you as well. Where do we find you, Dave? Where somebody's looking for you?
You find me, Dave Gieselman on Facebook. You find me at become-limitless.com. You find me at DaveG_Limitless on both Instagram and Twitter. I have a business page on my Facebook. I use my personal page, Dave Gieselman. And you know what? You find me, I'm easily the world's most accessible human being. You find me by email, you find me by social media, you find me by website, you find me by My cell phone number is on my Facebook page. Give me a damn call.
Love it. I love
That's
it.
how you find me.
And then I'm gonna throw a shout out to you too, because you've also got a mailing list that somebody could join, and you've got a free PDF that you send out that I think is
It's killer.
Yeah, it is really awesome. Let's talk just a second about what they can get outside of if a free month of potential coaching. They could also get this PDF file. What's that?
There's this great PDF, and I put it together. I'm publishing a journal next year. And it's basically clarity for me is everything. A good morning routine is everything. So in this PDF, it's basically a step-by-step guide of how to start your day powerfully. Some exercise, some meditation, some reading, some writing, and then attached to it is a journal page. And basically, if I was a good salesman, this is where I'd say, sign up for the pre-sale for this thing. But instead, what I'm doing is I'm giving away like the whole thing of this journal, like the page that is going to comprise like 97% of this journal that I'm now going to try and sell after I've given it away a billion times. So like, okay, so maybe my marketing strategy isn't where it could be, but it's a snapshot of who you are. I am a huge believer that clarity is everything. And basically, it's just a basic look in many areas of your life of where you stand today. And if you fill this thing out every single day, you will find yourself filling out the same. It'll take about 15 minutes, but you'll find yourself writing the same thing in the same box every day. And either you're writing the same thing in the same box and you love writing that thing. You know, this part of my life kicks ass. I love it. I don't want to change shit. And you'll get to write that every day and feel good about that every day. Or you'll write, this part of my life is not so awesome. I wish I was willing to change this. And how many days are you going to write that
Right.
before you go, I'm changing it?
Right.
But I am so fucking sick of writing this every day. I'm changing it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that clarity. It's that
Awesome.
clarity. It's not going to change your life overnight. It's not going to change your life in a week. It's not going to change your life in a month. You write that journal every day for 60 days, you're fixing to get taken to a different place.
Love
for
it.
sure.
Love it. Free.
I'm going to sell it later, but right now it's free.
Love it, brother. All right. And I'm going to cut it there. All right. Let me stop recording. So